is Tommy Springfield.
And I'm better than you!
If you're new here, click that like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, click all so you can get notifications on every time I do one of these videos. And we gonna get right into the video today. And today's video is arrests are made in the Matthew Perry's drug overdose situations, which is cool. You know, he overdosed and now some people are gonna pay, but just to say it, people in the ghetto overdose every day. You are not actively searching for the people who sold them these drugs. But anyways, let's get into the video.
Matthew Perry and an arrest that's been made. Let's listen in.
Law enforcement, my office, and our partners represented on this stage began an in-depth, wide-ranging investigation. That investigation has revealed a broad, underground criminal network responsible for distributing large quantities of ketamine to Mr. Perry and others. This network included a live-in assistant, various go-betweens, 2 medical doctors, and a major source of drug supply known as, quote, the Ketamine Queen. We charged 5 defendants in this matter. These defendants took advantage of Mr. Perry's addiction issues to enrich themselves. They knew what they were doing was wrong. They knew what they were doing was risking great danger to Mr. Perry, but they did it anyways. In the end, these defendants were more interested in profiting off Mr. Perry than caring for his well-being. I'm going to talk about the indictment, the allegations, and the charges in more detail. On October 28, 2023, Mr. Perry was found deceased in his home. An autopsy was conducted following his death. That autopsy showed that he had died due to the acute effects of ketamine. Ketamine is a controlled substance. It has some legitimate uses, but it is also used illegally. It is used by people seeking to disassociate from reality. It can cause serious health effects, serious health problems, including loss of consciousness, including spikes in blood pressure, and including respiratory issues that can deprive the brain of oxygen. For that reason, it is a drug that must be administered by medical professionals, and the patient must be monitored closely. That did not occur here. This investigation focused on who supplied the ketamine to Mr. Perry. As many of you know, Mr. Perry struggled with addiction in the past. And on many occasions, he sought help for his addiction issues. The investigation revealed that in the fall of 2023, Mr. Perry fell back into addiction, and these defendants took advantage to profit for themselves. The 2 lead defendants in this case are defendants Salvador Plasencia and defendant Jasvin Sanya. First, I'll talk about defendant Plasencia. Defendant Plasencia was a medical doctor. He worked with another medical doctor, defendant Mark Chavez, to obtain ketamine. He then worked with Mr. Perry's live-in assistant, defendant Kenneth Iwamasa, to distribute that ketamine to Mr. Perry. Over 2 months, from September to October 2023, they distributed approximately 20 vials of ketamine to Mr. Perry in exchange for $55,000 in cash. Defendant Plasencia saw this as an opportunity.
I don't know what ketamine is. I don't know nothing about it. You know, as a youngster, yes, I dabbled in hood shit and selling drugs, but don't know what ketamine is. So what they're alleging is that these 2 doctors, along with the personal assistants, targeted Mr. Matthew Perry and sold him drugs after selling him 25 vials for $55,000. They figured, hey, we got one. And their whole goal was to keep serving him the drug. That's what's going on. Let's continue.
To profit off of Mr. Perry. He wrote in a text message in September 2023, quote, I wonder how much this moron will pay. He also stated in text messages that he wanted to be Mr. Perry's sole source of supply. He wrote in a text message that he wanted to be Mr. Perry's, quote, go-to for drugs. As a doctor, defendant Placentia knew full well the danger of what he was doing. In fact, on one occasion, he injected Mr. Perry with ketamine, and he saw Mr. Perry freeze up and his blood pressure spike. Despite that, he left additional vials of ketamine for defendant Iwamasa to administer to Mr. Perry. Of course, defendant Iwamasa had no medical training to speak of. Defendant Placentia knew what he was doing was harming Mr. Perry. He had spoken to another patient in mid-October 2023, and he told that patient that Mr. Perry was spiraling out of control with his addiction. Nonetheless, defendant Placentia continued to offer ketamine to Mr. Perry. Likewise, defendant Sonia knew what she was doing was harming defendants and also Mr. Perry. She took advantage of Mr. Perry by selling large amounts of ketamine to Mr. Perry over a 2-week period in October of 2023. She sold...
I tell this to my black people, right, all the time. Fucking like... My goddamn light got a short in it. I gotta get a new one. But I tell this to my black people all the time. We need to stop blaming people for what you do. If you notice, he keeps saying, oh, the defendant was taking advantage and knew. If this man wasn't willing to pay for those drugs, guess what? Those defendants just move on and they go sell their drugs somewhere else. So I hate when we put the sole blame on other people for what you do. Matthew Perry was a grown, successful, rich white man. If I was a drug dealer and I got Matthew Perry as a customer, I'm gonna be trying to sell him drugs too. That is a drug dealer's dream, to get a rich customer. But guess what? If that rich customer doesn't call me and say I want this, or doesn't keep calling me and tell me what they want, I can't serve them. So we have to put some blame on Matthew Perry. Let's stop seeing these people took advantage. Of course they did. They took advantage of a person who wanted to be taken advantage of. They took advantage of a person who wanted drugs. They had the drugs, so they sold him the drugs. It's nobody's fault but Matthew Perry. He had an addiction. It's his family and friends' fault. They knew he had an addiction, so they should have got him off. Please don't always be mad at the person who takes the opportunity. That's what life is about, opportunities. And if you're in the business of selling drugs and the opportunity comes that you can serve a rich millionaire, you're going to take that opportunity. That's just my opinion.
approximately 50 vials of ketamine for approximately $11,000 in cash. She worked with a broker, defendant Eric Fleming, and also the live-in assistant, defendant Iwamasa, to distribute this ketamine. Sonia and the broker, defendant Fleming, saw this as an opportunity to profit off of Mr. Perry. In a text message, the broker wrote, quote, "I wouldn't do it if there wasn't a chance of me making some money for doing this." Defendant Sonia sold the batch of ketamine that resulted in Mr. Perry's death on October 28th. Officers later searched defendant Sonia's home. During that search, they found what amounted to a drug-selling emporium. They found 80 vials of ketamine, thousands of pills containing methamphetamine, cocaine, bottles of Xanax and other illegally obtained prescription drugs, and drug-selling paraphernalia, including scales and ledgers. As I mentioned, the defendants in this case knew what they were doing was wrong. When they referred to the ketamine, they used coded language. They referred to it.
I gotta correct him too. the person who OD'd knew they were doing something wrong too. We always leave that part out. We always like to make people victims when there is no victims here. I know Matthew Perry, he OD'd, he passed away, but he is no victim. He was paying for these drugs. He was ordering up these drugs. So let's stop saying that, please.
Using terms such as, quote, Dr. Pepper, or quote, bots, or quote, cans. Also, defendants Placencia and Chavez, as medical doctors, knew full well this was not the proper way to administer ketamine, and they even talked about that in their exchanges. And defendant Sonia also knew that she was doing something that caused great risk to Mr. Perry. In fact, during this investigation, we learned that several years before, in 2019, defendant Sonia had sold ketamine to another customer. That person died the same day. And a family member of that person sent a message to defendant Sonia telling her the cause of death was ketamine. Nonetheless, defendant Sonia continued selling drugs, including the ketamine that ultimately killed Mr. Perry. That other victim was a person named Cody McGlory. He died in 2019. As a result of this investigation, we have filed a drug distribution charge related to the death of Mr. McGlory. After Mr. Perry died, these defendants tried to cover up what they had done. On October 28th, after reading news reports of Mr. Perry's death, defendant Sonia wrote a text message to defendant Fleming saying, quote, delete all our messages. Likewise, after Mr. Perry's death, defendant Placencia falsified medical records and notes to try to make it look like what he was doing was legitimate. It was not. We have filed numerous federal charges against the 5 defendants. These charges include conspiracy to distribute ketamine, distribution of ketamine resulting in death, maintaining drug-involved premises for that drug-selling emporium the defendant Sonia had, altering and falsifying records related to a federal investigation for those false medical notes and records that defendant Placencia made, and multiple other drug trafficking counts. Of course, the defendants are presumed innocent until proven guilty. The penalties these defendants face are very significant. With regard to defendant Placencia, the statutory maximum sentence he faces is 120 years in federal prison. With regard to defendant Sonia, the statutory maximum she faces is life imprisonment. By filing these extensive and serious charges, we are sending a clear message. If you are in the business of selling dangerous...
Yeah, the message is very clear. If you are a celebrity and you OD, we will go after the killers. But if you from the slums, the hood, or poor white trash, and you OD, your ass just OD. We ain't looking for no killers. We ain't going after no killers. And that's just that.
drugs, we will hold you accountable for the deaths that you cause. This is nothing new for us. Since 2022, my office has filed over 60 cases against drug dealers who've caused the death of another person. These cases are known as death-resulting cases. They're labor-intensive cases, and we work with our law enforcement partners, including ones represented here today, to bring those.
If you do 60 of these cases a year, why is this the first time I'm seeing a press conference? Do you do a press conference at every 60? Or is it just because he's a celebrity, like I said before you made that statement? I'm just saying, I can be wrong. Get in the comment section and tell me I'm wrong.
Cases. Our office is a national leader in bringing those cases. They're very important because
Well, if you brought 60 cases and your office is a national leader, that means nobody brings these cases in America. You only 60, bro. Like, you're saying it like it's a big number. It's many thousands, millions of people across America that OD, and you're talking about 60, and we lead the country in cases. 60, bro. 60. And the time it took me, like 10, 15, 20 minutes to watch this video, we had thousands of ODing. You talk about 60 cases, bruh? Stop it.
Victims' life counts. If you are in the drug selling business and you're selling dangerous drugs, you are playing roulette with other people's lives, just like the 5 defendants here did to Mr. Perry. Defendants nowadays are on full notice that the products they sell could result in the death of another person. Therefore, if you're in the drug business, and despite these risks you continue in the drug business, you are pushed by greed to gamble with other people's lives, be advised, we will hold you accountable. I want to thank our partners in this case, the Los Angeles Police Department, the Drug Enforcement Administration, and the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. These investigators did a phenomenal job digging into the case, looking at every angle to develop a case, a strong case against not only those who killed Mr. Perry, but also Mr. McLaury. I want to note that these cases are important and will.
Okay, so there you have it. Arrest made in the death of actor Matthew Perry. You know, should we be happy about this? Because many people OD all across America. We are in a drug crisis right now, and they don't go after the dealers. So should we be happy, or should we say, hey, you only doing this because he's a celebrity? I don't know. But if you like what I do over here, click that like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, click all so you can get notifications every time I drop one of these videos. And if you're a supporter of the channel, much love and respect goes out to you, and I salute you and you and you and you. And if you're one of them haters out here, cut the shit.